Why don't I identify as black? Hi, I'm Hannah. We're going to have open, honest, and kind conversations about race. In particular, my experience as a mixed race woman. So I've been asked this question a few times, and it is a very delicate subject. But to me, the explanation is quite simple. And I think this is a widely experienced struggle amongst a lot of mixed race people. I would like to preface by saying I have seen a big difference between the culture of being black in the US versus the UK. I am from the UK. Like, for example, you have Afro-Americans. We don't have Afro-English. I mean, as far as I'm concerned. The culture is very different. So if I say something that might not sit right with you and you're American, that might be why. But from my experience, I would never call myself black, and I would also never call myself white. And it's pretty much for the same reason on both ends. I'm not just white, I am also black, and I'm not just black, I'm also white. To me, percentage of DNA doesn't matter. I think your life experience, how you grew up, the culture you were raised in, your family, a load of traditions, there is a million different things that make you a race other than your features, your skin colour, you know, your hair type. If I was going to call myself a white person, then I know visually looking at me, like, I mean, you can't really see my hair right now, but looking at me, a lot of people would assume I was white, or some people say that they can see that I'm mixed, but I don't think anyone would ever look at me and say I'm black. My skin isn't that dark, and I think that is one of the main reasons people call themselves black is because of their black skin. So while I have black in me, I don't present as a black woman. In my opinion, I present as a mixed woman. And I think there is definitely a difference between black, mixed, and white. And speaking from a mixed person's perspective, there's some parts of being a white person that I can identify with because I know I'm white passing, so some elements of white privilege, but there's some things I can't fully identify with about being white. The same can be said for black people. There's some things that I'll never really experience, such as, like, you know, really intense racism because of the colour of my skin. I don't have that colour skin. But there are some things that I can relate with, like microaggressions and hair problems. So if I went around calling myself white, I'm basically pretending that half of my life doesn't exist. The black side of my family, all of my black experiences. And the exact same can be said if I call myself black, then I'm ignoring all of the white experiences and white family that I have. So to me, calling myself mixed summarizes it perfectly. I'm not white, I'm not black, I'm both. I'm in the middle, I'm mixed. I do understand, and I have seen this more on the American side of TikTok, how important it is for some people to hold on to their black identity, and they encourage me themselves to call myself black. But I also think by doing that, I would be insulting, like, probably a large amount of people who wouldn't consider me black. Like, it's kind of a challenge on where you fit in, because I could say one thing and some people will be happy, some people won't be. And to me, I don't want to create discomfort for people. I don't want to offend people, especially because I hold the black side of my family so dear to my heart. I wouldn't want to offend a huge community like that after all the struggles that we've already been through. Mixed race is its own race, and it's a very colourful race. There is every skin tone, every eye colour, every feature, every hair type. There's every body type, you know, it's everything. And no two mixed race people look the same. You might have a stereotype in your brain of what a mixed race person looks like, but I can tell you now, they don't look like that. I hope to continue to talk about this in a positive, informative, educational way, that in the comments we can have an open discussion and help each other understand things that we might be missing or that we might not know about. Because I think it's time we started talking about race in a positive way, in a way that is accepting to everybody and is a way of encouraging and learning and adapting. With increasing access to travel and online dating, we're gonna see a lot more interracial relationships. And you're going to see a lot more mixed race babies. And you're going to have to accept the fact at some point that they're not all going to look the exact same way that you think they will. You're going to see a lot of people that are like, what are they? I don't know. But that's not for you to decide what they are. It doesn't make a difference to your life. Just accept people as they come. And if I tell you I'm mixed raced, believe it, because I wouldn't lie. And just love people for deeper than their skin tone. Get to know the person, get to know their story. Rather than tell them what they are, ask. Ask about their life, ask about their heritage, because I'm sure that you might learn some things that you didn't know. Maybe you can relate on some things. Maybe you've got a cultural dish that you both really, really like and you just wasn't expecting this white presenting person to even know what it was. As much as there's hate in the world, there can equally be the same amount, if not hopefully more, of joy, love and acceptance. So hi, I'm Hannah, I'm 24, I'm mixed race, I'm from the UK.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, Africans. Actually, It's good morning. I hope you're doing fine where you are. And if you ain't doing fine, please do fine where you are. Now, you understand that we have three races in this world. We have the Negroids, we have the Mongoloids, and then we have the Caucasians. We've done a lot of videos explaining who the Caucasians are, people from the Caucasus Mountains. We have the Mongoloids, people who are predominantly the Asians. Then we have the Negroids, the black person. You understand? Now, for a long time, we've had these three races as the major races in the whole world. But as times passed, as humans interacted more and more, as we had more columns to do trade, as we had more columns to come together through sports, activities and all that, we came to have other races. These other races came as a result of these interactions through trade, marriages, sports and all that. Now, the races that were brought about were classified into two categories. You understand? We call them the biracial and we call them the mixed race. Now, the biracial and the mixed race are covered under the umbrella of multiracial people, or rather the multiracial race. The multiracial race has two categories. Remember, it has the mixed and it has the biracial. The biracial individuals and those individuals whom their father and their mother come from two different races. The primary ones that I told you about, they are either a Mongoloid, a Caucasian, or an African, and the other parent is either of the two. So they have to be different. But a mixed race is someone with whom has a lot of biracial parents, or rather somewhere in their lineage they had a biracial parents, either the grandfather or the grandmother, or instead the easiest way to understand is that these are people who have mixed, they have mixed one another. Their parents or grandparents were mixed, so they brought about these people. A biracial is like a pure breed between two, the first generation of a pure breed. That one is very much easier to understand. But now a confusion is rising forth. A confusion is coming up, and people are refusing to be classified into either being called white, or rather a Caucasian, or a Negroid, or a Mongoloid. They don't want to be associated with those terms their parents were associated with, which leaves me with a very, very huge dilemma. Who are these people? You know, we can't say that you are multiracial, or we can't say that you are biracial, or we can't say that you are mixed race. You have to fall into a category. And for scientific purposes, or rather for the objectivity of science, it is that you will fall under the category with which your DNA has a huge percentage, or you will fall into the category your race has more, you know, you will fall into that category where you resemble them the most. You understand? So there can be a white person who was a black parent, but they resemble more of a white than a black. So can we say they're Africans? We can't say they're Africans. We can say from afar, we can't tell that they are white from afar before knowing that, right? So it is confusing even for me as well. Yeah. Now, there is examples of these people who are first generations of pure breeds, and there are other individuals who are the mixed race. Now, I want us to listen from each individual from both sides, and let's have to listen what they have to say, and then I shall catch up by the end of the video, where we shall also have a deep critical analysis.
Thought of it was that race was what people saw on you, so the color of your skin, sometimes the texture of your hair, or like facial features, and ethnicity is what made you who you are, like what your parents were, like where you come from, things like that. So for me, my ethnicity is white. I have very European features. I have very light skin and kind of light eyes and light hair. But my ethnicity is biracial, which seems funny because you use a term with the word race in it to describe an ethnicity, but I'll get into that more in a little bit. So I am multi-ethnic, biracial. My mom is black and my dad is white. And the reason I say biracial when describing my race is because my mom is black and American and came to America through slavery many, many years ago, we don't really know where our family is from on her end. So I can't say I'm white and from Niger, or I can't say I'm white and Caribbean, or white and Brazilian, or white and African even, because we just don't know, and there aren't that many records documenting where we came from. So for me, the way I describe myself is biracial, white, and black. Now, for some, it may seem kind of odd. Maybe you know other white and black kids who don't look like me and have more like mixed looking features. I don't know why I'm as light as I am. It just kind of happened. But nonetheless, I am still a person of color. Now that can get confusing because when a lot of people think person of color, they think skin color. And that's, the way I see it, that's just not correct. Because being a person of color, in my mind, means you are not white. And I am not fully white, half white. So the way I go about explaining this for the first time to people is I say I'm a white passing black person, or a white passing mixed person, or a white passing biracial person, or half black, half white, but white passing. Essentially the big word is white passing, which means I experience white privilege. I go about my life with people assuming that I'm white, and I get privilege that I experience the privileges that come with being white. For example, I am more likely to get a job if I say I'm white and not white and black. I'm less likely to be harassed because of my race, and I'm less likely to be treated differently because of my race with people who don't know me. So I kind of wear what my mom calls the complexion for the protection, which is interesting to me because I don't look like my siblings. My sister's very dark, and my brother looks mixed, but kind of still looks less passing than I do. So I go about my life with this disconnect from my ethnicity and my racial makeup because I don't look like what I am, and a huge part of being black is being connected, and a huge part of being part of any race is being connected with the people of your race. And that can be difficult because a lot of people don't understand why it matters to me that I am half black and half white when I do receive white privilege. And a lot of people don't understand why they should care and consider me a person of color when I look the way I do. And to that I say, I am what I am. I know what I am. And it is not up to somebody else to tell me what I can and cannot be racially or ethnically. But it's still something that stirs a lot of conflict in particularly classroom environments. I go to a predominantly white school, and so looking the way I do, I look like I make up that predominantly white school, and I do. But when it comes time to discuss things such as racism and slavery in history class or black poetry in English class, I consider myself to be more on the black side, which can be a cause for conflict because a lot of people, and I don't want to say strictly white people because in my experience it has not always been strictly white people, but a lot of people have been very uncomfortable with me considering myself or calling myself black when I am just as black as any other half black, half white kid that isn't as light as me. And that is hard because I have to continue to explain myself and explain my ethnic and racial existence to people wherever I go. And there are times when I wish I didn't have to do that. But with that and with that struggle, I do accept the fact that I receive white privilege, and that in our society is a very, very big and important thing. So, to wrap things up, I am not white. I appear white. I am white and black, making me a person of color, technically a black person, but also still white passing. So if you didn't get anything else from this video, the 3 major key points are: not all light-skinned people are just white. You can be half black and look completely white. And people who look white but aren't completely white.
Why is it that certain biracial people are considered black while others are not? To give you a really good example, Mariah Carey. if I think back to Mariah Carey, someone I grew up listening to and loving, like I loved Mariah Carey, listened to all of her music. My whole family did. And she's a legend. So the Black community back then used to embrace Mariah Carey. She was on BET. People celebrate her. And I think like when you see people like her with notoriety and are successful, all of a sudden we want to accept her as Black and have her a part of that community because it's a win for us. But ultimately she's Black and she's white. So why are we accepting some biracial people and allowing them to express and own their Blackness, but other people who are biracial are not allowed to do that? I see it amongst the biracial community as a whole, like not just my own page, but I see an overwhelming theme. It's not just skin tone, because you look at Mariah Carey, you look at Barack Obama, Halle Berry, and even Bob Marley, people who have different skin tones, and they're all treated differently according to their fame, their success, their notoriety, who they are. I mean, Barack Obama wasn't our first mixed president. He was our first Black president. And this is where sometimes I think our society is a little bit twisted, because no wonder why biracial people have questions about their identity, because everyone's out here stating their opinions and accepting some people and not accepting others. Like, don't you see where the confusion lies? And this is the biracial dilemma. And it's not the biggest problem in the world, but it's something that people who are not biracial and are constantly being told what they are find really annoying and really frustrating. And so a lot of people ask, well, why don't you just celebrate being both? Or why don't you just love being mixed? And I think there's a lot of pressure from society to choose one or the other. So it's not that I don't want to identify with both. I think it makes it difficult when people kind of place or put me in this category of what I'm supposed to be. Okay, America. Okay, world. Who am I today?
Let's quickly talk about the term white passing, because I saw a tweet that talked about how Halle Berry was white passing, and that, my friends, she's definitely not. White passing is when someone perceives a person of color as a white person. It also happens when a certain member of a racial or ethnic group presents themselves as belonging to another group, which is generally a non-marginalized one. Historically, people have passed as white for their safety, for better opportunities, or in order to escape oppression. Now, obviously, that's just a brief summary, and there's much more to it, but what's important to note here is that in order to pass, one must be able to hide or simply not have characteristics or traits most often associated with their particular racial or ethnic group. And in this case, what characteristics does Halle Berry have that could allow her to do that? The answer is none, because she presents as a Black woman. See, this is also where the conversation surrounding phenotype comes into play, because Halle Berry doesn't look mixed on sight. Her observable characteristics, so phenotype, make her look like a light-skinned Black woman, whereas Meghan Markle's phenotype, for example, is immediately understood as being mixed, to me at least. Now, could they both have benefited from colorism in their spaces? Absolutely, but in no space is Halle Berry seen as white presenting, much less white passing. To give you a better idea, let me give you some visual examples as to where some people did or do pass as white. Anatole Brouillard, for example, a late New York Times book critic, hid his Black ancestry for years. White passing, yes. Broadway sensation Carol Channing hid her Black ancestry until the age of 81. White passing? Yes. On the other hand, Freddie Washington, an actress known for her role in Imitation of Life, possessed all the traits needed to pass for white, but actually refused to deny her heritage and advocated for Black people in entertainment. But let's also take a look at some more recent examples. Pete Wentz is white passing. Wentworth Miller is white passing. Jennifer Beals could be white passing. Troyan Belisario could be white passing. There are other examples, but ultimately what everyone should take away from this is that in no world is she white passing or white presenting. I hope that cleared some things up, because if Halle Berry is considered white passing, then so am I, and I can tell you firsthand that my life experiences have not reflected that.
I am half Black. My biological father is African American. I'm gonna break it down for you because I know what you're thinking. This girl is insane. There's no way. She has green eyes, very light skin, and blonde hair. Like, there's no way. Growing up as a kid, I always got, "That's your stepdad, you must be adopted." This video is honestly for educational purposes, to just let you know, like, people can look like me and be mixed. So let me break it down and show you my parents. Alrighty, here is me and my dad. This is my dad, his name is Lance. Here's another photo. It's kind of blurry, but yes, he raised me my entire life from when I came out the womb. Here is another photo of us when I was younger. And this is my mom, so I definitely took after, like, her skin tone, her hair. I'm looking like a weird ass little baby in this pic, but this is my mom, again. Here is her when she was in her teenage years. So yeah, those are my parents. My dad actually had a paternity test after I was born. Not because he thought my mom was cheating, but just to make sure, because I did come out looking super fair, which is absolutely hilarious, honestly. One day somebody asked him, they were like, how does your baby have blonde hair? That is not your kid. And my dad just made a joke. He was like, oh yeah, I used to have blonde hair when I was a kid too. Like, serves you right for asking a dumb question. I will say.
So after carefully watching this video, there is something I can tell you about understanding, trying to see into the perspectives of these multiracial and biracial individuals. Yeah, so we've had people calling themselves mixed race. We've also had people calling themselves the biracials. And remember, by the beginning of the video, I tried to show you the differences that we have with these two people, you know. So this is an issue that needs to be addressed, because we have a very a highly growing multiracial population in the United States of America, and that is a key thing that is going to affect so many in the future. Because if right now people cannot classify themselves, or rather people do not want to be called black or white, they want to be called themselves, because you can't call yourself, you have to fall into a category, and this is a very problematic, it's like an enigma that needs to be addressed. One thing I noticed is that this video is addressing the evolving understanding of race and ethnicity. It's a psychological thing, by the way. Particularly in the light of the rapidly growing multiracial population in the United States of America, I believe that the people, or rather the sisters and the brothers, I call them sisters and brothers despite different skin. You don't have to match my skin color for you to be a brother or for you to be a sister. Now, the sisters and the brother have emphasized that race is a social construct. One of them said so. It's not a biological reality, and that race in its meaning changes over time and context. Race has been shaped by historical and sociopolitical factors like white supremacy, which was key in promoting slavery in the United States of America and promoting colonialism in Africa. We have things such as traditional monoracial categories, which are insufficient to capture complexities of multiracial identities. And the people who have made these videos advocate for more nuanced terminology and approaches that need to be addressed and researched very well. You understand? Now, this video provides definition for various terms related to race and ethnicity, including multiracial, biracial, multi-ethnic, and related concepts, acknowledging that these terms are subject to ongoing debate and evolution in the United States of America. The brothers and the sisters whom we've just seen right now have highlighted the importance of critical multiracial theory as a framework for understanding race and racism, color and colorism. It is here to emphasize the need to challenge a historical analysis and dominant ideologies that persist in the minds of people today. You know, they stress the need for psychologists to define their terms explicitly in research, even basic terms like race and ethnicity, to ensure clarity and avoid perpetuating harmful assumptions. You've seen one of those, one of those brothers, he really does not want to be called a black person. No, he also does not want to be called a white, but obviously one of his parents was either black or white, but he doesn't want to be called that way. He wants to be called himself. You know, this thing is a problematic issue that I believe has to be addressed psychologically, and the person who is denying the fact that they don't want to be called such so and so have to realize that race is just a social construct. It's not a biological construct. It's not manufactured in the womb. You know, we build races in our mind. It's the geographical and the climatic and the social and the political places we live at that construct these concepts we call race. I am black because I live in Africa. Africa receives a lot of sunshine. So for me to protect myself, for God God loved me a lot, and he wanted me to live long, and so for that reason he gave me a black skin and he placed me in Africa where I would survive. There's another person also, my age, maybe we were born the same day, he lives in the US, maybe Europe, or any other place outside Africa. They may have different skin, but that different skin is for a purpose. Deep inside, we belong to the same species. A species is a group of organisms whose members can freely interbreed, yeah? And these members can freely interbreed and give rise to children who can also give birth to other children. That means that race is just a social construct. It's nothing at all. We shouldn't worry about why are you calling me this, why are you calling me that. But I understand mistaken identity. But let's not keep that into our mind too much, you know. This video has ultimately aimed to equip the viewers, or rather the audience of the United States of America, with the tools to conduct more race-conscious terminologies. You know, they want us to research accurately and reflect the diversity of the US population and challenges of systemic racism in the United States of America. Now, because black people are facing racism, and one of their parents is black, they don't want to be called black because of that negative connotation, that the stereotype that has befell the people of Black America. You know, you just don't want to be called that because there's a certain political assumption that is tagged onto that name. Some countries in Africa, they don't want to be called African countries because of the negative stereotypes that people have on Africa. But this is just a thought in someone's mind. It's not even the reality. Why should it bother you that much? Once you understand race, color, and all this is just a social construct, you will learn to appreciate yourself more, and whatever someone calls you won't be wrong. Because if someone calls you black, maybe your father was black, are you not proud to be like your father? If someone calls you white, your father was white, are you not proud to be that? Tell me. That's where I will end this video. I hope you get value, and if you do get value, kindly support me on Patreon. I'll surely appreciate it. It helps me help you bring you important educational content. See you in the next one.